Getting to the heart of the matter. Back to Guy, Ben, and Frank with more Inside the News.
Welcome back to our third segment of Inside the News. Glad that you are with us all across the country on our affiliates and SoundCloud, YouTube, and AUN TV. Ben Brunson, he's in the bottom middle, and we've got Frank Vernuccio top left. I'm in the top right. My name is Guy Wehman. This is our election trail segment. Frank, we're going to start with you. There's an out-and-out push. I mean, the Democrats, I was noticing the ads down here in Florida, and Ben can attest to this, is that they are literally saying anything they want. And it's not what they believe, because you know their position statements because they've said it before and you can read it. But they're just saying, you know, we want to make America great again. We want to do this and all these other things. And yet when they get into office, they do what they want. They don't care about the people. When Biden says, we care about you, I don't believe him for a second. Frank, go.
Well, one of the great strengths of having a media that's totally in the tank for one side against the other is that you can say anything you want and no one is going to fact check you and no one is going to make you look ridiculous. The Democrats have been saying anything to any audience that they think will get them votes, knowing that the media will not contradict the falsehoods that they're obviously giving out. It's clear to me that the Democrats must have internals saying that the positions by Donald Trump are more popular than the positions taken by the Democratic Party and the left as a whole. Therefore, for the remainder of this election cycle, they are going to ape whatever positions Donald Trump has that seem to play well with audiences. Make America great, spark the economy, be tough on China. You're going to hear all of this from the Democratic Party going forward until the election. Now, just as you're mentioning, Guy, that has nothing to do with what the policies they'll enact should they get the White House and the control of the Senate. There's absolutely no consistency between the two. But without a media to check them, without a media to point out the utter hypocrisy of their position, they're free to do it, and it's a tremendous advantage they have.
You know, they've been in power for a lot of years here, Ben, and Joe Biden, 47 years, and yet he promises the same thing every time he's running, whether it was for the Senate or whatever. And we've heard this mantra before. Trump gets up there 4 years ago in 2016. He has delivered on his promises. That also makes the Democrats furious on this. It's like, man, he actually did what he said, Ben.
Well, Donald Trump has proven to be a fairly unique politician and certainly a unique president out of the recent past, because he has delivered exactly what he has promised to deliver and stuck to his campaign positioning. And I think 4 years ago, that was the biggest issue that a lot of conservatives were grappling with. Was Donald Trump truly a conservative, or is he just spinning to get our votes? And I think a lot of people stayed home and refused to go vote because they just did not trust Donald Trump to be a true conservative. He tried to address that by releasing his list of Supreme Court nominees, something that Joe Biden will not do, even though it's front and center as an issue right now. And he won't do it because it's obvious that if he releases a list that will appease his current party and its base, it will be a far left radical list of justices with proven track records that are demonstrably progressive ideologically. So Trump has delivered. He's delivered for the working class, and he's up against a guy who spent 47 years not doing much, but what he did do was almost universally wrong in terms of its impact on America. So he led the drive to bring China into the World Trade Organization and normalize trade ties and NAFTA and everything else that Trump has been working hard to undo the impact, especially on the working class, the middle class in this country. And I think that is the issue that will resound in Donald Trump's favor come November 3rd.
Okay, Frank, we see AOC out there, Ocasio-Cortez, and you can almost see her leaning over that bar as she's bartending, saying, this guy is bad, and this guy, and you don't want to vote for him. And that's, and I'm not trying to be, critical of that, but at the same time, that seems to be her level of argument. Okay, it's not based on substance. It's like, well, you know this, when actually people in middle America, they're saying, we've seen what's going on and our lives are much better as far as taxes go and as far as jobs go. And you know what I'm talking about. You're up there in the state of New York, right next to AOC's territory.
Well, the fascinating thing about AOC and her ilk is that it demonstrates clearly there are two types of politicians in the United States, and they can cross party lines and even to some extent ideological lines. One type, basically those in the center and on the right, get elected to do a particular job. If you're at the local level, you get elected to keep the streets safe, put out the fires, collect the garbage, educate the kids.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very practical thing. On the national level, you get elected to keep the country safe from foreign attack, to keep the economy moving in a good direction. Then on the other side, on the left, exemplified by people like AOC or Chuck Schumer, you get elected not for any of those things. You consider your office there to advance either the personal interest of a political party over a country, or to advance an ideological agenda. If you look at things like Mayor Ted Wheeler of Portland, Mayor de Blasio of New York, Mayor Lightfoot of Chicago, you can easily see their administrations have nothing to do with collecting the garbage, keeping the streets safe, or putting out the fires. It's all to push an ideological agenda. The people, the voters, they don't really count. All that counts is the ideological agenda.
Ben, I saw you kind of nodding when I gave the intro and tossed it there to Frank, and I know you had a comment on that. Go.
Well, look, the problem we have in this country is that, and it's been a bipartisan issue until Donald Trump came along, is that the driving force in Washington, D.C. has been the ever-increasing centralization of power into that city and through that city. And that comes with ever-increasing budgets. We run a $4 trillion plus budget now. This year, it'll be about a $7 trillion budget with all the emergency spending. Hopefully, we'll go back to a more normal type of budget next year. It's a huge chunk of our GDP, and that money flows through Washington, D.C., and that brings power and influence on an ever-increasing basis. And it is truly a threat to the long-term viability of our republic, which has gotten so wealthy and powerful by just the opposite, by having power in the hands of the people and outside of the government. And we've been going in the wrong direction. Donald Trump, at least, is trying to fight against that. Even if he hasn't done anything positive on the budget issue yet, but he is reducing regulation, which is a great source of power, simplifying the tax code, which is a great source of power in Washington. And so at least he's fighting back.
All right, this is Inside the News, and that was Ben Brunson, the author of the Falstaff, Enigma, and Esther, Sling. You can find more about Ben at benbrunson.com and amazon.com. Frank Vernuccio with the American Analysis News and Media. You can find more about Frank at usagovpolicy.com. He is also the voice of the Minute Report for America, and check that out on local stations all across the country as he delivers a true voice for America. We're going to take a time out. We're going to be back when we pick up the pieces. We'll be back.
You're listening to Wehman, Brunson, and Vernuccio, Inside the News.